If you're anything like me, you probably saw a trailer for this game with gameplay showing off similar kinds of things to what you're seeing here. Fast-paced, crazy, air slashing around, rushing forward, awesome ninja action stuff, right? And you see that and you're like, oh man, I gotta give this game a try, it looks freaking cool. Well, I got some bad news for you, bro. This cool stuff you're seeing here, this isn't really the game. Because when you first start this game, it is incredibly basic. You just got moving, jumping, and slashing. That's it. Very simple 2-button game. That's all that's going on. It's very much in the vein of old school NES, Ninja Gaiden, or even like Castlevania style stuff. And I do like these kinds of games. They're pretty fun. They're usually really hard and all about using a very, very simple and basic moveset to overcome a bounty of all kinds of crazy, weird obstacles and situations, and realizing that even with a super limited toolset, you do have everything you need to deal with all kinds of difficult situations. But ultimately, when the game is in this basic state, it's not that great in my opinion. It's fine, it's good, but it's nothing crazy, it's nothing to write home about. It's a pretty standard, simple 2D action platformer. You know, it's good, it's not bad, but But over the course of the game, you start unlocking more abilities and it starts to flesh out a little bit. But even then, it does take a while to actually get to where you want it to get. Before we get into all those extra moves and stuff you unlock, a quick thing I want to cover is that there are power-ups in this game that you can get that give you some extra stuff. I'm not really going to go into too much detail about most of them because a lot of them aren't really that interesting, but I will cover this one here. This frickin' cool spinning blade thing that flies around you, and what's really fun about this thing is that its, like, movement is based on its orientation to you. Like, if you move vertically, then you'll give it vertical momentum and it will bounce up and down. If you're moving sideways a lot, then it'll bounce sideways, and you can jump and maneuver yourself in specific ways to get it to, like, wrap around you and move in very specific patterns. And then on top of that, you can hit it to knock it forward specifically, and then you can, like, move in a certain way to get it to ricochet back in the exact position you want. It opens up really, really cool opportunities for flinging that thing around and hitting enemies. It's really fun. Unfortunately, if you'll see in the top left corner, those 3 yellow pips next to your HUD are how many hits you can take before you lose these power-ups. And you only got 3 hits with them, and in this game, 3 is not a lot, so even if these power-ups are cool, most of the time, you're not really going to have them unless you're super duper good, which I'm not. But with that out of the way, let's start getting into the more advanced moveset stuff that starts to open up as you play this game, because this is where the interesting stuff is. Eventually. First is just a basic shuriken projectile throw that you can do. Nothing too interesting, but very useful. And this is where SP starts to come into the game, that blue meter underneath your health in the top left corner. Pretty much all of the attacks that you unlock throughout the course of the game use SP in some way, and the shuriken is the first of them. It's very simple, 1 point of SP to throw a shuriken. If you got none, you can't throw any. And you can get SP refills from drops from enemies or pickups that you find throughout the level. Very, like, old school stuff, similar to, like, hearts in the old Castlevanias and things like that. The next ability you get is an upward slash that shoots some fireballs. Interesting thing to note about this move and certain other moves that you get that use SP is that some of them can be used without SP and they'll have a weakened effect of some kind. So in this case, you just don't get the fireballs with the upward slash. Then next you get is this diving stab move, and this thing is super duper useful for bouncing off enemies and helping with platforming while also attacking at the same time. It's great. It's so great, in fact, that this is where we start to come into one of the problems of the game that I'm not really a big fan of. Because as I said before, to use a lot of these attacks that you unlock throughout the game, you have to use SP to do it. The problem with that is a lot of these tools are really good and useful, and you just want to make use of them. But if you do that, you're going to be burning through your SP, and your SP is valuable, so you're thinking, well, I should save that and use that for important situations. So then you end up not using all these special fancy moves you get, and you just rely on the basic slash and jumping around for everything. It's really lame. The problem is that there's no manual way for you to build SP on your own. You only get it from random enemy drops or pickups you find throughout the level, and they're pretty sparing with how they place those things around, so you can find yourself in many situations where you just have no SP and there's no way to refill it, and you just go, I shouldn't have been using all my abilities, but the abilities are fun and cool to use, so I want to use them, but I shouldn't. And you find yourself in so many situations where it's like it just feels right to use like the downward stab or the upward slash or something, and it just is like you don't want to because it's going to end up costing you resources that you won't be able to choose to build back on your own. And that on its own is something that could be tolerable. You know, it ultimately comes down to resource management. Yeah, you want to use them, but you also want to save them, and it's about making those choices of when is the right time to and to not use them. I get that. But then the game has a lot of situations where they force you to use these abilities. Stuff like this right here. The only way to get through is a bunch of downward slashes, and you're just draining through your SP of no choice of your own. Like, this is no longer resource management. This is the game just telling me that I have to spend a bunch of my SP for no reason. And this becomes a major problem when you need to get collectibles that require having the SP versions of your abilities, but you spent SP and now you can't do it, so now you have to come back later when you get SP from farming enemies or something. It's just, like, really not great. So that's kind of a big problem with this game, is the resource management. If there was just some way to, like, manually build the SP on your own through something that you do or your actions, that would really solve pretty much all these problems. But there's just not, so you're like, do I use them? Do I not use them? They're cool, they're fun, but I'd rather save the SP for like a mini-boss or something. I don't know. It's not great. Anyway, back to the moves that you unlock throughout the game. You eventually get the ability to wall jump, and now that totally opens up things, and this doesn't use any SP, obviously. And by now you might be seeing what I was saying before about, like, things start to ramp up, but not really that much. Nothing crazy. It's like, okay, I got some utility stuff and a wall jump. Like, alright. There's still nothing blowing my mind here. But the next thing you get, this is when the game finally started to turn up for me and get really good. Because you get a parry. Ooh, baby. You know me. Maybe. I love me my parries. And so parrying in this game is done by tapping forward in the direction that attacks are coming at you. And you can only parry projectiles, by the way. Doing so will turn them into this, like, neutral blue floating orb. And then I was like, well, that's weird. What's that just doing there? You can slash it and shoot it back. That's so cool. But there's a problem. You see, because the parry is just on moving into projectiles, it means that you could just, like, spam tapping in that direction, and the parry window is large enough that you could effectively parry everything with no effort. So the developers implemented an anti-spam system to make it so you actually have to time your parry to make it work, which is a very good thing. But their execution of it was a bit flawed, in my opinion. Basically, the way it works is that if you're moving in a direction, you can't parry for a brief window of time until you stop and go back to neutral. And it is an incredibly small window, a fraction of a second. But in a game as precise and fast-paced as this, a fraction of a second is gigantic for that kind of input. It makes the parries feel very inconsistent because you realize pretty quickly that you can't move while parrying at the same time. You can't be running forward into a projectile and then let go and tap again to parry. That won't work because of the anti-spam measure, because that's 2 quick taps in a row. The game thinks that you're trying to spam and it stops you. But it's not! I'm not trying to spam, I'm just trying to walk forward and parry! And at first it was very frustrating. I was like, why is my parry not working every time? Like, I'm certain I timed that correctly. The window is pretty generous. What is going on? And then I realized what it was. And this system results in, like, in order to parry correctly, I started, like, standing still, and it really started cutting through the flow of the game, and it felt bad, man. My suggestion to the developers, if they were watching this by some miracle, is that have this same anti-spam system, but only trigger it on the second time someone taps the same direction within a window of time. That way you could actually move into projectiles and parry them immediately without having this problem. Still though, despite my complaints, the parrying is freaking awesome and it's super duper fun. But now, finally, we get to the move that we're all here for, the dash. And the way the dash works is pretty interesting. So that, dashing slash move that you saw before is actually just what occurs when you run. The move you actually unlock is just the ability to run or sprint, whatever. You just double tap a direction and you'll start sprinting. Then if you slash while you're sprinting, you'll do that dashing slash move. And if you jump from a sprint, then that will carry your momentum forward, and then you can do the dashing slash in the air, all that kind of stuff. Quick note on the input, though. I recommend going into the options and disabling the double tap to sprint, because there is a button dedicated to doing the sprint, which I personally find way more comfortable, because once I got this move, I just started sprinting everywhere, and having to double tap constantly would get really annoying. Just makes your life easier that way. Plus, it makes it so you don't risk accidentally sprinting when you're trying to parry stuff. And with that dashing slash, I actually want to cover the no SP version of it first, because that's pretty interesting too. This move works very differently with or without SP, so I want to cover them both. So without SP, it's just a dashing slash. You just go a set distance and you attack, then you come out of the sprint, and that's pretty much it. But interestingly, you can immediately sprint right as soon as the move is done, and you can immediately slash again, and without any SP concerns, you can just keep repeatedly doing this slash instantaneously and just travel really quickly all over the place, and it's actually really cool and fun. So this move without SP is still actually pretty cool and interesting, but it functions very differently than when it does have SP. Because when it does, now your sprint does not get stopped at the end of the slash, it continues through it. And if you hit something in the air, then your ability to do the dash attack is refreshed, because normally you can only do it once in the air, but if you hit something, you can do it again, and this is how you end up doing those crazy chains where you're flying through the air, dashing forward a bunch. Also cool is that there is actually a brief window of time after the move hits before it gives you your momentum from the sprint back, and you can actually use that to turn back the other direction and dash left after dashing right. Really cool. Another neat note about this attack is that it's not actually a dash. That after image effect that you get, that's a lie. It's an illusion. Actually, this move is a teleport. Your character instantaneously moves from the beginning of the move to the end of it. He doesn't actually travel that distance. So you can use it as kind of like a dodge to go through enemy attacks or through hazards and all kinds of stuff. Very, very neat. And actually, remember what I said before about how I would like this game more if there was a way to manually generate SP and that there wasn't one? I kinda lied there, but only sort of. I still think that is a problem. You actually do have a way to generate SP manually, but it's only once you unlock this dash move. Prior to this point, you don't, and I do still think that's a problem because that's like half the game. But once you do have this dash move, if you use the SP version and you kill an enemy with it, then it will guaranteed, mostly like 99%, sometimes it doesn't, I don't know why. Pretty much guaranteed it will drop 1 SP point. And it will just fly right to you, you don't have to bother picking it up. So you can just keep going, and it will refresh your SP, so you can just manually dash around like crazy, which is awesome. And if you can try to finagle it, if you can hit 2 enemies with a single dash attack, you will get 2 SP points. So there is actually a way to profit and earn SP like that, which is cool. It's unfortunate that it comes halfway through the game, but whatever. But once I got this move and I got the hang of it, I didn't really have SP problems anymore. So, you know, that problem does go away, but probably shouldn't have had it to begin with, right? And while this is a great tool for combat and killing enemies, don't forget that it's just a really good platforming tool to just make long-distance jumps easier and all kinds of stuff. It has huge application for just getting around the place. The last upgrade you get is the ability to charge all of your moves to get some sort of enhanced effect on them beyond even the SP bonus. And that's cool, you know, it has some application. It's nothing like super duper crazy, though at this point in the game you do also get a double jump, which helps enhance the platforming even further. And the dash attack also does refresh your double jump on top of the dash attack itself. So it really gives you a lot more platforming options at this late point in the game. And real quick, before I forget, you see me doing the downward stab and then I like dash straight down? You get that at the same time as the double jump and the charge moves. You just have to input the move twice, and then on the second time you'll dash down like that, so there you go. So now that we've covered the full moveset about the game, it's time to complain more. One thing that's very annoying is that the effect for hitting enemies where they like flash orange, for certain enemies is also the same effect for when they start up their attacks. So if you're hitting them, you don't know that they're about to hit you. Why is that a thing? Don't make the enemy attack warnings the same as when they're getting hit. That's stupid. But I got another issue. And this is kind of more a problem with me, but also I'm gonna blame the game a little bit for it. Which is that by the time I got the dash and the double jump, I'm like, alright bro, it's time. Let's go. It's time to jet through the level like a crazy man. Let's just dash through and slash everything up and go, go, go. No, no, no. I'm gonna tell you right now, if you were interested in this game for the fast-paced, crazy, air dashing, jumping off enemies, all that cool stuff you saw in the trailer, nah, this ain't that. Even when you do get all this cool stuff, the game does not revolve around that. It does not become a game where you can just rush forward and react to whatever's coming up and deal with everything with some double jumps and air dashes and stuff like that. It's just not gonna work. Because you gotta remember, this is an old school NES Ninja Gaiden style game, or Castlevania. And those games are about being slow and careful. And that's what the beginning part of this game is. You know, you can't just rush forward mindlessly, like you gotta be careful, take it one step at a time, analyze the situation, and make the right moves. And once you get all this crazy stuff, that doesn't change. The game stays the same like that. And for me, my brain just did not compute with that. It felt like the game was contradicting itself. Like it gives you all these crazy, awesome, fast mobility tools, and it just makes me want to use them. I'm like, of course I want to jump and double jump and dash forward and string a bunch of air dashes on enemies as I just fly through the level. Like, of course! That's awesome! But then the level design is, anytime I tried to do that, I just die. Constantly. It took me so many attempts to beat this section here, because this is very early on after you get the air dash and double jump, and I was trying to make it work, and it just was not working. And it's because I was trying to play the game in the wrong way. Suddenly I get this mobility and I throw caution to the wind and say go time, and it just didn't work. It doesn't work. You still gotta be careful and methodical and slow and use these things at the right times when you're certain they're gonna work. You can't just run off screen and hope that whatever comes up you'll be able to handle in that moment, because you're not gonna be able to. And so I was kind of having issues with the game at this point, but I realized that it was kind of my fault for trying to play the game in the wrong way suddenly when this is not what the game has been up to this point at all. And once I started playing the game correctly again, at this point with this extra mobility, it started to get really fun. Like I was saying before, like the first half of the game before you get this stuff is good, it's fine, it's nothing exceptional, it's decent. But once you get the parry and the dash and the double jump and stuff, then it starts to get really, really fun. Just don't forget what kind of game it is. Don't lose your way. And I know I've had a lot of complaints in this video up to this point, but I want to make it clear, I do like this game. I do think it's really good and I do recommend it. Just, it has some problems. But overall, Cyber Shadow, I would say, is a fine entry into the ninja action genre. If I were to say my biggest issue with the game is that you get all the cool stuff in the halfway point, and there's no way to, like, replay the game with everything unlocked. There's no New Game Plus, at least not at the time of recording this video. I'm pretty sure the developer is going to implement that, so when that's in the game, that'll be really cool, because then you actually can rush through the game with all the abilities from the start, like you wanted from the beginning. Hope you enjoyed, thanks for watching, see you next video.